right, hello. We are on to our first module, module one of web page development. You won't be seeing my face during these type of videos. This is mostly discussion and demo. I'll be doing things on the screen for you guys to follow along with. Also I will be working with, I may or may not be using your PowerPoint depending on the chapter. For this first initial video, I kind of made some bullet points for what we're going to discuss today. It's going to be mostly demo today. I'm not going to sit there and drone on PowerPoint while you fall asleep as much as possible through this whole course. That's going to be my main goal. So the goals for today are to create our first HTML web page. And how do I I've been working with web pages for, it's in the decades now, and both on server-sided and client-sided, and there's a lot of information, but fortunately we have 10 modules worth of information, or 10 weeks, that way I can get that out to you. What I really would want to focus on for our first week is, hey, what are the expectations before you view a video? I would prefer that you read the chapter before you view the videos. So please, if you haven't read the chapter yet, go ahead and pause the video and go read it, or at least skim it, especially if you're familiar with HTML, before we get into our first initial bit of demonstration. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to start your web pages and author them, and a little bit about, as we progress through that, I'll talk about the markup language and the behavior of how it's rendered in the browser, and the top-down, left to right associativity that it's based upon. We're going to talk about how to view the source. Where your web page is located is important as well. And then as part of that whole bit of demo, I'm going to show you how to submit your homework. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is some of the things that are in your chapter, such as dynamic web pages. That's kind of in the title of the book, responsive web design. Dynamics, we're not going to be getting into JavaScript too much. Definitely not server-sided programming. Remember, we're trying to focus on less techy, but I am the tech help here. So your book is less on the tech, but I will be more on the tech as much as possible. Now, jQuery, and of course, JavaScript, PHP, we'll talk about briefly. And then that's going to be our module one video. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with web page development. Now, here's the thing that I want you to kind of really think about. Do not get in the habit of creating your web pages with your editor. Because a lot of students, unless you have an understanding of how folders work, a lot of students really don't get it, and they get stuck in doing everything in the editor that they choose, and then they're reliant on that editor. So do as much as possible to work within the file system itself. And for that, what I would suggest is that for a website, every website is contained within a folder. And in that folder, you will have multiple web pages, one of them being what's called your index web page. So let's go ahead on your desktop, and always keep it on your desktop, guys. This is just the thing that I always like to tell my students is, if you're working on something, where is it usually at when you're at your desk? It's on your desktop, and that's why we have this thing called the desktop, so that you're not going through a whole slew of folders within folders within folders to find just to get started with your work for today or for the day. Because I've gotten into that habit where I literally waste a half hour just getting back to the directory of where I need to be at to start my work. So start your development environment on your desktop. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to create a new folder. And then we're going to give our folder a name, my website. That's fine. And then everything that we do for our website is going to be in this folder. And then once you've created that folder, you can just open it up and start managing your website. Now, another thing, so that you're not creating web pages with your text editor, and you can use any text editor, it doesn't matter, create your files in the file system that you are working in. So that means that you're going to have to be able to view extensions. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, once you have your folder open here, you're going to go up here to view. I think this is how, maybe it's options. But what we want is view, we want to show extensions. We want to find something that says show file extensions. I don't think it's in there. I know I've already got it selected, so I'm just looking for it for you guys. You know, maybe, hopefully we didn't start with just a big bomb already. Let's see, it should be in the view. Let's expand this. It should be in this view area. Oh, show. Okay, there we go. That makes sense. Show file name extensions. You're going to need that because when we create a file, a web page is just a text file. So we're going to create a text file with an extension .txt, and then we're going to rename it with an HTML or an HTML extension. So make sure that this little thing is check marked. I also like to show myself hidden items, but make sure that you can see file name extensions, because that gives you the ability to rename your extensions within this folder window or Windows Explorer. So we're in my website folder, and I want to start with creating my website. Well, there's always different kinds of web pages in our website. One of them would be like a contact us web page. So, you know, this one isn't going to be the web page that we are going to be working on today, but I'm going to show you the process starting with this so that we can have our next discussion, which is what an index page is. So I'm going to go here to new text document. What I did is I just right-clicked in here, and I went to new, and then I said text document, because every web page is just text. It's you know, this is what we call a markup language. You are kind of programming. I mean, it is a language, but it's a markup language. It's actually how you're, you know, you guys use Microsoft Word and RPF or RPT, whatever files. But docx files, those are used. That's a markup language file, except for it's binary, so you can't see it, and Microsoft kind of hides it. But this is, you know, HTML is exactly how Microsoft Word works, except for HTML is an open system. Microsoft Word is a closed system and proprietary, and how its markup language works. And they also save it as binary, so that you can't edit it and mess with it. You have to use Microsoft Word to edit it. But for HTML, it's not saved as binary. It's saved as straight up text. So you're writing code as text and into a file that has an HTML extension. It's still a text file. It's just the extension is being named HTML so that the operating system can recognize it as an HTML file. And that's not necessary on other systems as well. So you can be on a Unix or a Mac, and even though it's appreciated that you have a .htm extension, there are ways where you could view the web page and render it in a browser without the HTML or HTML extension. So let's just create a contact us page. Now here's where we're going to make it HTML. So we would say HTML here. .htm makes it an HTML page, or .html makes it an HTML page. I'm going to go with the HTM naming convention. So that's going to be the Contact Us webpage. And I'm going to create it. And you notice how the icon now changes. What it changes to is it changes to this Chrome icon, because I've set up on my operating system that this web page is opened with Chrome. Well, we're going to want to open it with something other than Chrome so that we can edit it. We're going to want to open it with a text editor, and I'll be getting into that here shortly. But this would be just a web page. If I double clicked on it, it would, open up with Chrome and show nothing essentially. And that's because there's nothing in it. There is no text to show and render. So there will be nothing on the screen. And if I were to say open with my text editor that we're going to be using, which is Visual Studio Code, then it will show us the code, but there's no code in there yet. We're not going to start here. This is just an example of a web page that we would have. We're going to start with the actual first web page that would be in our folder. And that means that when a website opens our folder, it goes to the defaulted index.htm file. And that way you would have other web pages with that web page that is called index, and that consists of your website. So this is kind of like a little mini website, but we're not going to actually do that contact us stuff. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to create another text document. And this one I'm going to call index.html. Now this is what we want because this is the default. If we were to upload this website to a web server, we would put all the web pages that go with our website in our folder. And our website is now just composed of index and contact us. The index page would be what is actually rendered in the browser, and we would have to provide a link to the contact us page. Now, what I want to do here is I'm going to actually change this so that I open with Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is just a text editor, and it's got some nice things that you can do, like adding extensions and autocomplete and stuff to be able to complete or to get assistance in completing your HTML. Other ones that you can use are NetBeans. Your book says to use Notepad++. But what I want is I want instead of Chrome opening this by default, I want the tool that I've decided to use, the text editor I've decided to use, to be Visual Studio to open it by default. So I'm not doing this right click all the time. So I'm going to go here, choose another app, but I'm going to use Visual Studio Code again, but I'm going to mark here always. And we'll see that it's changed. It's changed. So you can actually install Visual Studio Code. You guys can just do a Google search and install it. And you can use this and go in and create the web page by going File, New, File, and specifying it that it's an HTML file. It doesn't matter what kind of file it is. We can do Python development in here. It's literally just changes the text. So we could actually use Notepad to build our web page, and we can open this up with Notepad, choose another app, and we can go down here to Notepad and edit it with Notepad itself. And Notepad is the simplest one that's available to every computer. Now, the one that your book talks about is Notepad++, which has some other additions to it that makes it useful, and you can use that one as well. NetBeans is another good one. And it looks like I'm just doing a little cleanup here, so excuse my little bit. But NetBeans is a good one that I use often for web page development. In fact, I actually prefer NetBeans for web page development than I do with Visual Studio Code. But Visual Studio Code is kind of an up-and-comer. It's been, I use it for Python now, and it's very popular with students. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that one, just for being up to date, essentially. And what I'm going to do here now is the index.html is the file that it's going to be our first web page. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that, and we're going to start editing in this web page. Now this light right here is just telling me where it's located in my file system. You want every web page that you're creating for this website to be in that folder. All right, let's go back to see where we're at on things. Now, HTML is a markup language, meaning that you use tags, and within those tags you put text that is rendered according to the usage or the tag usage. For example, on page 26 from your book, and let's actually go over to that page. Page 26. We'll come back to this page in a little bit, but let's skip ahead to 26 here. And in 26, we have kind of an example from your book of what a web page has. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on another screen, and I'm going to type it in from here while we discuss it, and then you guys can follow along with me, and then we will render it in our browser. And then we can view it as it's supposed to be seen in the browser from the text. So all web pages start with the heading. They start with a heading of the tag HTML, and it's just written in text. And you notice how it automatically puts the \HTML. This means this is the start of our web page. This is the end of our web page. And so when we're working with tags, often we will end the region of a markup with that / and the name of the entry point of that region. So that means that any text that we put in between these two tags is part of our HTML page. And then we have different parts of an HTML page. So the HTML tag is to refer to the HTML page as a whole. Now the other part that we have is we have the heading of an HTML page, such as the titles that you see within the browser of the web page itself. And we're going to go ahead and title this one. But before we title it, because the title is part of the head of the web page, we are going to put the head in first. So this is another reason why Visual Studio Code is nice, because if you were working in Notepad or Notepad++, you would have to go in and type this out. It's auto-completing it for me. So you get some intuitive behavior when you're using a higher level development environment, such as Visual Studio Code. It adds things in for you. So this is the beginning of our head in the web page. This is the end of our head in our web page. Now, one main part in our head, the heading of our web page that we need is, what is the title of our web page? What does it actually show up in our tab for our browser? So for instance, and let me just bring this over, let's bring this screen over again that I plopped over here. This is what, up here in this tab, that's where the title goes, up here. Okay, now I'm going to drag this back to where I had it. So we're going to say, well, what do we want up there? So we're going to start with our title tag, and it will end it for us, which is kind of cool. Well, it was cool until I erased it. And I would suggest that you guys kind of get used to doing things a certain way, because you see how I'm kind of spacing things out and organizing them. This is the way it's primarily should be. You notice that head title is a part of head. So you see that title is indented automatically inside of the head tag or markup. If this was going to be like all the way, I would probably do something like that. But usually we don't tab in on the head. So as far part of the title, let's just do this. Between the way a markup language works is between these tags is the entity that the tags represent. So in this case, the title of our web page, what is the title? Well, it's the text that we put between the start of the title tag and the end of the title tag. So I'm going to go here and I'm just going to put in my first web page. Yeah, that's fine. Now, some other things about the head of a web page might be some meta information, just some stuff that you would tell, like maybe a robot, like Google's robot spider, that's parsing your web page, some instructions or whatever. Anything that is part of that web page. Some of the meta information is where you determine, hey, what kind of characters are we using for this web page? And pretty much standard characters is what we call UTF-8. You see it's down here, it's encoding UTF-8. Basically, that's all based on the ASCII code, which is essentially our keyboard characters. Then you have what's called Unicode. ASCII code is, and let's go ahead and just bring that over here. ASCII code is the very bottom of the character set of every computer in the world. So every computer in the world, even if you're in China, who has their own Unicode characters, it has the underlying layer of ASCII codes. So even if you're working with a Chinese computer in China that's working with Unicode characters that are using their character keys, the standard is that every computer has ASCII code at the very bottom layer. And so this is a good table for ASCII code that I like to use a lot. Is this one right here. Basically, there's 128 keys on the keyboard, and this represents every key. And so since everything on the computer is a number, even the characters you type on the keyboard are given numbers. Like, for instance, the capital A is given the value 65, and the capital B is given the value 66. And so when those are stored, they're not stored as these characters. They're stored in the binary equivalent of the value 65 and marked as a character. And therefore, when it's rendered and shown on your screen, it knows to take that binary 65 value and show it as the capital A. And so here's me getting on the techie side. That's my purpose here, is to kind of brush on those things while you concentrate on the perfection of a website and what your book gives you. So the meta is where we say, hey, we are using a standard character set. In fact, the character set that we're using is English, and it comes in, it's the UTF-8 instead of, we're not using Chinese characters essentially. So let me get back to, I think I had, there we go. I believe we say meta, and then this is one of those tags where you say that the char set is UTF-8. And you see here it is. Here's Visual Studio Code finishing for us what we need. So you're saying, hey, web page, or hey, Google Chrome, the characters that we're actually using is, oh my goodness. Interesting. My phone just started up because of that. But we're saying the characters that we're using need to be rendered as English characters instead of Chinese characters. That's what we're doing. And so then Chrome knows to render, instead of Unicode characters in Chinese or whatever language. It could be, any other character set that doesn't use alpha characters in the English language. So that's part of the header. And then we're going to say that's it for the heads, because these are pretty much the basics of what you need for the web page. And that's pretty much everything that we need other than the body. The body is essentially the web page. This is just the header that dictates what is the characters we're using that are going to be rendered for this web page. And then what is the title of the web page. Then we get into the body of the web page. So the body of the web page is everything that the web page has. And then, looks like it did that for me. Okay, and then we're going to do this. Now let's go ahead and tab that in so that we have everything kind of set aside properly there. Now this is where I would be putting other things, such as, let's just put in hello world. This is stuff. Hit enter, more stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and save this. Okay, now what we can do is we can go back to our folder and we can do a right click on this and say open with Google Chrome, and it's going to pop up, and you notice here that here's our web page rendered. This is the body of our web page, and everything that we put in our body is there. But you notice how that it does not put a new line here. I did that on purpose to kind of give you that point. We would actually have to put in a special character in here, like a special tag called break line or a new line for that new line to show up. And so it did not render with a new line, so I would have to do a refresh. I would have to save this again, file save, after I added in that line break tag. And then I could go over here and do a refresh, and there now the line break tag is there. So that's kind of the beginning of your development here, is in creating your first web page. And a lot of what you will be doing is going to be located in the body of your web page. Now, here are some things that I want to show you. I want to show you how to run this or to view your source. So if you look into the rendered web page, you can go over here to developer tools, more tools. You go up to the three ellipses, the three dots, go to more tools, click on developer tools. And then what the developer tools will do is you can look in and you can say, hey, what's the source? And you can see here that I clicked into this area, and this is what's being rendered on the page. And you can look at the source code of the web page that's being rendered in the browser. And the way the browser works is it always renders in the order of appearance from top down, left to right. That means if I were to put something down below here, it's going to render it below. If I put something over to the right here, it's going to render it to the right. I'll have to save this and go back to my Chrome here and refresh it to see it. But you see now the stuff below and then to the right. Well, guess what? We put a line break there, so it changed things, didn't it? It put this below and then this stuff to the right. So the tags themselves can change that default behavior. and make it appear differently than what you intend. However, the way that Chrome renders and begins by default on how to draw your web page on in the browser, and that's what I mean by when I say render, it's going to follow that top-down, left-to-right behavior. So it'll read the web page and evaluate it from top down, left to right, and that's how it will also render it and show it in the screen, unless the tags or this cascade styling sheets, CSS, tells it to do differently. And if you're ever in doubt, always come back to that main rule, top down, left to right. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you is, hey, we can just turn this off and stop doing our silly little refresh thing and go right up to here and just say start. Trust workspace and continue, and we'll tell it to open it with a web app Chrome, and it's going to automatically pop up Chrome and render the page for us. At least it should have. Web app there, Chrome there it goes. Okay, so you can actually run this directly from Visual Studio Code. What you can do is you can just click, just stay here and just hit F5. Just hit F5 and it'll pop it right up for you without having to mess around with stuff. Run, start debug, run without debug, same thing. You're not going to be doing much debugging because you're not writing JavaScript. So that you don't have to deal with debug. So don't worry about debug at all, and unless you're doing JavaScript, and that's a higher level stuff anyways. So there's that part of it. Here's the other part. You can go to File here, New File, and let's just say that we're going to have a text file, and let's just call this, what's another thing that we have other than contact us? About.html. Let's create about.html, and it asks us where we want it to go, and we're going to want to put it here. Create file. And there we go. We've just created another file, another web page that we can start working on. And you're going to want to actually create something called a template, so that you're going to always be working with. And so here's what I would do is just grab this thing and go over here, File, New, File. And you can actually add some extensions where you can choose HTML down here. What we're going to do is I'm going to call this a template, and let's just make it a template.text if you want, or you can call it HTML. We're just going to use it to grab the code for or the markup for a new web page that we're going to develop, because you're going to just always start with the same simple tags for each web page that you create, and you're going to want to have that templated so that you can always come and grab that markup and just use it, because your web pages are going to get more complex. So let's just create this template and have it already there for us. And whenever you create a new website, just create a folder, throw your template in there so you can start a new web page quick and easy. If you're using a website development tool, they have these for you on hand, pretty easy. I would suggest that you don't rely on those tools though, guys. I mean, seriously, you're not going to learn anything any close to being technically literate if you rely on the editor creating files for you. And so try to do everything within the Windows folder as much as possible so you understand the structure, the folder structure of a website, and are able to work with it. Okay, so that's our first web page. Now, how do I want? Let's go back to my my bullet points here. We talked about the markup language. That's what you're learning about, is how that language works. We talked about how left to right, the default value of left to right, and then when that breaks, when that changes. That also changes with boxes and CSS. That's something on page 14 we're going to get to. I showed you how to do view source, your file location, not how to submit your homework yet. So let's do that now. So this is how I would like you to submit your homework. For example, our first web page, I'm going to want you to go to Word and go ahead and create a blank document. And what you will do is you will, label the assignment first. Make it so I can get feedback to you as quickly as possible. So label with what it is. That's from your book. And then once you label it, then you're going to put the code or the text of your markup. So that's every website, web page that you worked on, you changed, that you need to show that works. So you're going to copy that code. You're going to go back to your Word document and you're going to paste it here. And then I need this as text though, guys. It has to be text. It can't be an image of code. Even as you see when I copied and pasted it from Visual Studio Code, it came in as black in the background. But that's fine because it's just a black background. It's still text. I do need an image though. I need you to show me that your code works, your markup works. And that is, you're going to show me the web page rendered in your browser. And that needs to be done with a screenshot. So I'm going to go up here to run. I'm going to run this web page. This is what I want a screenshot of, guys. So to do this, what you can do is use Snippy. There's other ways of type in, go down here to the search bar, type in SN, and it brings up the snipping tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say new, but I'm going to make it so that I select a rectangle, and then I'm going to click new, and then I'm going to grab the part of the page that I want to show. I don't need to. I don't need to do the whole page in this case because only what we got is like right here. So I just need to grab that part of it. And then it takes what you selected and it puts it on the clipboard so that when you go back to Word and the code that you have, you can paste it in. And then I have the label of what the website is or homework assignment is. I have the HTML code, the markup, all the work that you did in text. Not a screenshot of it, guys. Text. Go in, copy the text from the text editor, paste it in. Then I want to see an image of it rendered in your browser. So you will do either one screenshot and or multiple screenshots. I'm expecting more than one on your other assignments. Show me, you don't have to especially if it's based on the website that you're building, give me screenshots that most pertains to the work that you did and submitted and completed for that week. So that I can go in, look at your code, okay, look at your screenshot, oh, you got it, full score, and move on. Or I can say, oh, looks like we need a little work here. I can throw in a comment for you, and you guys can get that done and resubmitted and get that full score so you can move on to your next week's assignment. And so this is really to help me help you in a lot of ways so that I can get through your homework, give you that valuable feedback. No news is good news, guys. If I just give you a full score and you don't see a comment, then you have the blessing of awesomeness. So sometimes I will see something of good note and I'll say, awesome job, keep it up. I'll give you some encouragement that you're doing well and to keep moving along. If there is not a full score or a 0 or a half a score, I will leave a comment on what you need to do to complete and get a full score. So this you can save as your document and submit it. You can also save it and export it as a PDF and submit that. You can use other, if you're using a Mac and you're using Pages, do not submit a Pages document. give me a PDF, please, or something that's not pages. A PDF or an open office document would work, but I would prefer a PDF if you do not have Microsoft Word or you're not using it. And pretty much everything out there will export to PDF. Okay, so this is how I would like to see your homework, and that takes us to a few other things that I had planned for this video, which would be boxes and CSS. Okay, this way of doing things worked for a while, and essentially it stopped working because we had this technology called frames that came in, where you could put things in nice, neat little boxes on the web page. And we called them frames to begin with, and they were an unholy mess. And so frames went out and cascading styling sheets came in. And so CSS is what we use to take our tags and further modify that top-down, left-to-right behavior so that it no longer really has to follow that top-down, left-to-right, even though it defaults that way, and even your nice neat boxes are that way, top down, left to right. But we've got more control over where things are put on the screen than just the default top down, left to right, based on your markup, the actual code that you write. And so Cascade styling sheets came in, and you're going to be learning through that through your book, and I'll be hitting that up, depending on what your book asks of us, etc., as we progress through the quarter. But to give you an example, that's on page 14 in your book, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that as a reference. It looks like, well, okay, we don't want that. Let's go back to my browser that I hit over here. So let's go to page 14 and kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, page 14. So you see here that we have all these nice little boxes. We have an image banner. This is kind of the way a modern website is expected to look. We're supposed to have all these nice little boxes where everything kind of is allowed to go within a website. And that's what cascading styling sheets gives us, is our ability to do that with much more ease than it would be to do it with straight up HTML tags and frames, which frames aren't even used anymore. So that is the reason for CSS, is so that we can put things in a certain area of our web page and control where it's at, how it's viewed, the colors of that box. What's in that box is determined by the markup language, but where that box goes and how it's shown on the screen is what CSS does. So the markup language would be the stuff that's inside the box. The CSS tells us where the box goes. And so that's something that we will progress into. So I want to come back to a little bit more of this word called dynamics and dynamic web page or website development. The problem with markup languages is that once the browser renders the screen, once it renders the web page, there is no more user interaction. That's always been a big problem. So a lot of what happened is things were built such as Adobe Flash. Adobe Flash is gone. Thank God it's dead. But they came up with things to add like Java applets and stuff to websites to make them more user responsive. So they kind of acted like a program, like an app, instead of a website. And in fact, learning management systems such as Canvas that we use today are heavily built on those concepts of dynamic web page development. And to have that, one of the main starts of that is CSS, so that we can have different areas of the web page that we manage. But not only that, but JavaScript. JavaScript, what it is it's a scripting language that is designed to change the HTML tags right before they're rendered. And it's also a language that can be used for user interaction. So what you can do is you can actually put in a script tag at the end of your web page. And what this script tag would do is you could use it to grab a hold of, say, some kind of tag or some kind of thing that had been rendered, or some kind of some code that you've written in here, to grab a hold of that property or that box that's being rendered on the screen and change it using code. So you do that with a script tag, and then you write JavaScript. One thing, one bit of code that we can use in JavaScript is the document.write statement, where we just can do something like hello world. We're not learning JavaScript in this class. We have a bit on JavaScript in the book, but that's not where we're putting our time into. But essentially, you always put the JavaScript at the end of the web page, because it's designed to change or modify the tags or your markup language after the markup language has been read by Chrome, but right before and during the rendering, or as it's drawn to the screen. And so what that gives us is the ability to have some kind of dynamic behavior where we have user interaction and responsive websites, really quickly responsive websites. Now, I know the title of your book talks about responsive website design. That's fine. But to be truly responsive, it would need some kind of JavaScript in it. So we can actually run this, and it'll do a document.write hello world. It'll run the script. We might need that. Oh yeah, okay, hello world. You notice it's on the very top. We would have to make some changes for that. That's fine. It just throws it on there. Because remember, JavaScript, it's evaluated just before rendering the HTML. So of course this comes first, because JavaScript is designed to modify the HTML right before it's rendered to make it dynamic, and then after it's rendered as well. So that's why it's at the very beginning, is because it does this first, and then it renders the tags. So it does the JavaScript first, then renders the tag. So again, we're not putting time into that, but that's one of the ways that we have dynamic website development, is with JavaScript. And that's its main use, is to modify HTML after Chrome has read the HTML, but right before it renders it. So first, Chrome will read the HTML, then it will render it. If you have JavaScript, it will read the HTML, complete the JavaScript commands that may change the HTML, and then render the HTML with the changed JavaScript. Are you confused yet? Good, because you can put it out of your mind for now. Just know that true dynamic websites need JavaScript. And here's the other part of it. JavaScript is not used for accessing a database, because when you have JavaScript, you go to view source, developer tools, view source. The script that you used is part of, see right there? It's part of what Chrome sees. So it's not secure. So if you use JavaScript that accesses a database, guess what? You're just giving your username and password to everybody. So you do not use JavaScript for server-side development. It doesn't happen. The way server-side development works is it's an actual executable that runs, and it actually writes the HTML as it's running. So it's a program that is outputting HTML tags dynamically with print statements. Oh yeah, and that is secure. Because if you've got a program that is sending HTML tags to Chrome, you don't see the program's code. You only see the HTML it's sending you. I'm going to be adding a video, an extra credit assignment for this week, and a video on how server-sided programming works, so that those advanced members out there that would like to know the secret of server-sided development can get an idea of how it works. And so I'll be adding that as part of this week's stuff. So that's how server-sided programming works. It can be any program that prints HTML to Chrome. It could be C++, Python, Java. It could be any executable. But the one that's accepted for use is what we call PHP. PHP is the programming language we use for server-sided development. Now here, let's talk about real quick jQuery. What is jQuery? Guess what? It's JavaScript. It's shorthand JavaScript, because JavaScript gets so lengthy to write the code for it to give dynamic behavior to your HTML tags that they come up with a whole shorthand methodology of using JavaScript called jQuery, so that you can type less. But guess what? It's just JavaScript. So don't worry too much about jQuery itself either. So server-sided programming is just a program that prints out HTML tags so that you do not see the database accessing code behind. Chrome only sees the HTML tags that it's shown, that it's sent to it, so it's secure. JavaScript is for dynamically changing the HTML after Chrome has read and parsed the HTML, but right before it renders it. So you can change things dynamically, and after it renders it as well. It can be both back and forth. So that you can have that back and forth behavior, kind of like an application like Canvas. Canvas is all JavaScript and server-sided programming. Basically, it's a server-side, it's an executable that prints HTML and JavaScript to Chrome, and Chrome will do the JavaScript and the HTML portion of it, and behind the scenes, the server-sided programming part of it is just the program that's printing the HTML and the JavaScript. So mostly what you do for dynamic web pages is the HTML first of all, and all JavaScript is modifying, all it's doing is modifying the HTML. That's all it does. And that's just to make it responsive, so we have crap like Adobe Flash and stinky stuff like that, or Java applets. Those things are very insecure, which is why they're no longer supported. Okay. All right. So let's just as a you've got an idea of, I'm going to be adding some another server-sided programming video. It's going to be for advanced folks, but if you want to get a better idea of how that's done, I do have a little routine that you can do if you do have some programming experience that can give you a better understanding of how server-sided programming is done. JavaScript, we know, is just code that modifies your HTML. So you learning HTML and CSS is everything you need to know about website development, regardless of where your thought space is on things like what we call client-sided development and server-sided development. I just explained what those things were. So concentrate on your HTML and CSS. That's where I would say is where the whole beginning, the beginning of your journey into this realm is at. And we're going to be spending more than several weeks on that. And I'm happy to have you. And remember, come in and see me if this isn't a summer course. So, all right, guys, take care until next week. Oh, and I may be bringing in PowerPoints here and there, but I'll try to stay away from them if I can. But there are going to be, I may end up having every week that we do some PowerPoint. We'll see how that goes and how everything progresses. Okay? All right, take care, guys. I think I've met my goals for this week. Goodbye.